Welcome to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 75 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. We're going to be investigating some Firefox stuff today. It's going to be a good time. I'm just popping open my IRC client in case I need to talk to people. Yeah, going to have a real good time. Really looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Let's get started. What are we doing today? Whoop. Here's my screen. Here's the agenda. Today is October 12th. A reminder that no plan survives breakfast. This is kind of a rough roadmap. There's not even much on it. I assume that this part's going to take most of the episode, and if not, well, I'll find some stuff to do. But also, just a check. I'm recording. My mic's working. That's good. Okay. So this is the agenda. It's kind of got some useful stuff in here. You might find it handy to click on links and follow along as I go. This agenda is actually available to you. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, you can scroll down to the additional links section. You'll find a link to it. I just put it there. If you only just got to, or I just updated the Air Mozilla page, so if the link that you go to is for like an older agenda, reload the page because the newer agenda should be linked there. Um, and yeah, you can click on these links and follow along as I update this and it synchronizes. Then reload the agenda and you'll get all the stuff. So what are we doing today? Today I'm tackling my old nemesis. My old nemesis. What's the old nemesis? Well, I'll try and show you. It's actually harder to show you these days because my nemesis is harder to come by. Let me see if I can show you an example. Um, let's pull up the HTML standard and just try and do some tab switching here. I think I can make it appear if I do it this way. No, no. Maybe if I like look. The tab switch spinner is what I'm talking about. You may have heard me talking about it before. It's this thing that can sometimes appear between tab switches. Um, and I'm having difficulty. Oh, there it is. There it is. It was there for a quick second. I don't know what was going on. I can actually dump a profile for that one. Um, but that's what I'm attempting to get data about. Um, we're trying to defeat it. It exists in for users that have E10S enabled. And let me I've been like I had a blog post about this. I think it's called the Tab Spinner of Doom. I made a video about profiling it, but on my blog, if you visit my blog, I've got something about Tab Spinner. Yeah, electrolysis and the big tab spinner of doom. And I don't know where the image is. I don't know why the image is missing. But what it is this blog post kind of describes what it is. I'll try and describe it myself. Basically, when we have a content process, and that content process we like switch to a tab that's in that content process. We need that content process to give us something to paint. So the contents of the tab that we just switched to, we need to paint the contents. Um, and if the content process's main thread is busy, if it cannot, it's doing something else and it doesn't have the ability to paint just yet, then the parent process has like this timeout where it goes, well, I haven't gotten a frame to paint from the content process for a long time, so I'm just going to show a spinner so that the user knows that the browser itself is still active. It's still alive. You can switch tabs. You can open menus and stuff. It seems less hung as a browser, but the content process itself is not showing you what you want, and that's particularly frustrating as you're switching tabs and you might like want a particular thing. I notice now that I've only got a couple of. I have to zoom in. Where is that tab switch that I hopefully captured in my profiler here? Spinner shown. Switch finish, finish, stab switch. Spinner shown was there, and what was happening? Well, the parent process was fine. The content process down here was busy doing something. And what was it doing? It was restyling things. It was busy restyling a page in response to a vsync message. So it was doing style computations, and that took about, wow, it took a long time, about a minute and a half, about a second and a half, 1.4-ish seconds to do style calculations. And in that time, I was attempting to get it to paint something, and it couldn't do it. So after we started the switch, then right here we start showing the spinner, and then whenever the content process finally freed up right about here, we forced the paint, and then uh, this is where we stopped showing the spinner. So we have these little markers in here showing where the spinner went away. So this is where the bad stuff happened, and in this case, we were busy doing a restyle. And so what we've started to do is find the places where we find that the content process is sometimes doing things when we want to paint and um, interrupting the content process, forcing a paint and then letting it continue. That's the strategy. Now let me just say for a second that in the non-E10S case, what would be happening here? Let's find out. Let's open up a non-E10S window. I'm going to open up uh, the HTML standard in this tab, and like already the parent process is really bogged down. It's like the whole thing just starts to jank. The whole thing got really awful there. Like, this is what you get whenever you don't have process separation. You have this super unresponsive parent process. It's trying to calculate this humongous document. It doesn't, and it's blocking the main thread. In the and then in the not in the E10S case, it's much like smoother. I can switch tabs. It's still alive. The content process, however, is bogged down, and that's why we get our little spinner. Is because the content process is bogged down, but the parent process is still active. I can still switch tabs and paint things. So it's an improvement. The spinner is a sort of is a replacement for the browser just being completely like hung. That's the that's our current thinking behind it. If you're seeing the spinner, then in the non-E10S case, chances are what you would have seen is the whole content or the whole browser being unresponsive. So we think it's not a huge improvement. You're still not seeing the web content you want to see, but the fact that the browser is still responding is strictly better than the whole browser not responding during the tab switch. That's what we've got. Now, what are we doing to fix this? So I already talked about some of the stuff we're doing. We've got this framework in place where we have this so we have multiple processes, and each process has multiple threads. And there's the main thread in each process, in the parent process and the content process. There's the main thread, and the main thread in the content process is the thing that needs to do the painting. And if the main thread in the content process it gets blocked up when we want to paint, well, that's when we see the spinner. And so what we can do is we've made it so that we can tell a separate thread in the content process that we want to paint right away. And what we do is flip a value. We set a value on that thread that's shared between all of the threads, or shared between, I should say, that background thread and the main thread. And the main thread, while it's doing all its busy work, is periodically checking that variable. It locks it and it looks at it and says, oh, eventually it'll say, oh, someone wants to paint. I better drop what I'm doing, paint, and then maybe I'll get back to what I was doing before. And that's kind of how it works. We set the variable, the browser in the main thread in the content process, it realizes we want to paint, it stops what it's doing, it paints, and then it continues whatever it was doing before. And what that means is even if the content process, like this first bug was the big one, that's if the content process is running expensive JavaScript. That was a big one we identified. If like you're visiting a page and it's doing something really weird with script, like for example, what if it was just running a while loop? Here, I'll show you that right now. I'm gonna trigger a while. Oh, you can't see the bottom of my screen. Let me just pop that up and pop up the font. I'm gonna run this busy loop. This is a while loop that's never gonna exit, and I'm just gonna run that. And how many content processes do I have right now? I got 2 content processes, but at least I'm certain that there are some of these content processes that are, or some of these tabs that are sharing the same content process. So I'm going to run this while loop, and that is going to effectively block the main thread in the content process. And yet, I can still switch tabs. I can still switch tabs. I might not be able to interact with the tabs. Like here's a tab, for example, that I cannot interact with. I'm able to paint it, but I cannot interact with it. And when I scroll, I'm not updating the paints, but I'm still able to switch to the tab. So we're doing this like illusion where we've been able to say, hey, this main thread is blocked, but I was able to force it to paint even though it was blocked. And we also exposed some UI that allows you to like stop the busy JavaScript. And that's what I've done. And then like my clicks that were queued have just been accepted. Um, so that's one thing that we've got is this forcing of tab painting. More recently, we landed GC yield. This is in today's nightly. Like it only just showed up in today's nightly, where if your main thread is doing a garbage collection that's kind of related to JavaScript, but if you've consumed a lot of memory and your main thread is garbage collecting, so it's trying to find the things in memory that are not required anymore, the things on the heap that have been allocated that nothing is referring to anymore, and then it's getting rid of them. This is in sort of JavaScript world. Normally that takes some hopefully finite amount of time on the main thread. Well, now we can interrupt the garbage collector, paint, and then continue garbage collecting. There's another one in the pipe as well. There's this one here, bug 1306728, which will allow us to paint during cycle collection. Cycle collection is sort of a counterpart to garbage collection in that, I mean, they're both attempting to find ways of reclaiming memory, but cycle collection finds like reference cycles in our native code or in our code in general. It looks for reference cycles and then breaks those cycles so that if there's anything in there that's no longer referred to, once that cycle is broken, then we can like reclaim that memory. It allows us to prevent leaks where we have these reference loops that so everything looks like they have things pointed at them, but it's all just like this discrete chunk that nothing outside of the cycle can point at. So we have a cycle collector that we can also soon hopefully interrupt. That's Andrew McCrate is working on that. So what else can we do? Well, I think we need more data. These were the big ones. JavaScript, GC, and CC were the big ones that we thought we need to be able to interrupt these. I suspect layout and style flushing is another one, but we need more data. So one of the things we've been trying to do, and we've had middling to no success doing this, is asking our users for performance profiles, like these sorts of things I was just looking at, to give us a sense of what's going on when they see the spinner. Because it's different from computer to computer, and like some computers are stronger than others. I have like a very high-powered MacBook that I do my engineering work on, and that is different from a netbook that's running Windows 7 that was shipped in 5 years ago. The I think that's when Windows 7 was still available. Yes, I believe so. So we need more data about what people are suffering from and why. So it turns out we have a mechanism that allows us to gather what are called thread hangs. It's already in Gecko. It's been in Gecko for a while if you have your telemetry enabled, and you should. Go to About Telemetry, and we have this thing called browser hangs and thread hangs. If you go to browser hangs, if you're not on Windows, I think it's always empty. But thread hangs is populated with stuff, and this is showing me thread hangs in the main process. It's basically these histograms are representations of how many times I hit this particular hang with this particular stack. And so in many cases, it's like they're one-off. Like I hit this one only once. Let me just get rid of that. I only saw this one once, and it took about 128 seconds, I think, something like that. And over here, I saw this hang once at about 256 milliseconds. And this is what's nice about this is it works across multiple threads. Like that's the main thread, but it also has one for the vsync thread, the image bridge child, and the process hang monitor thread. And we can collect these histograms and get data, which is nice. And that's submitted to telemetry, and we can then like analyze it using things like BHR. So this allows us to look, and this is all open. You can look at this too. We can take a look at the sort of things that are um, causing hangs for our users. Some of them, unfortunately, here's one of the problems, is that these stacks that we're looking at are what are called pseudo stacks, meaning that they're not true native stacks, because those are actually very expensive to compute, and we cannot get them in our normal builds, because in our normal builds we do a kind of a optimization called frame pointer stripping, where it allows function calls within the application, the browser, to be faster, which is good for our users, but it prevents us from actually introspecting and finding out what a certain call stack, like where a certain thread is in its call stack. So we have this mechanism for pseudo stacks where we basically instrument a bunch of functions manually, and if we hit an instrumented function, well, then it appears in this pseudo stack, and that allows us to kind of like get a sense of where hangs might be for non-nightly builds. Because I want to point out something. We don't strip the symbols from nightly builds. So in nightly, you can profile, you can get native stacks, and it's great. Everything's fantastic on nightly. But everyone else, we don't get native stacks, and that's a problem because our native population is definitely not representative of our actual like full user population. Native population is significantly smaller. It's significantly, I'd say, more technical people, probably with stronger hardware. When I say technical people, people who are not afraid of running nightly software, like edge on the edge software that and like our nightly user population is they are very unique, I would say, and are skewed in a particular way that our normal release and general population is not. So we can't really look at the data or at just the data from nightly. We have to get it from everyone else. And so we've got these thread hangs. And so why don't we use this? Why don't we find out what's going on in the content process, because we actually get content process payloads. We're able to see, excuse me, when the content process main thread hangs. It's called gecko child is the name of the main thread in the content process. So why don't we use this? Well, one of the problems is, oh, well, we could use this. That's a good idea, but we don't know which one of these hangs occurred during a tab switch. It's not entirely clear. Any one of these could have occurred during a tab switch. Probably they did occur during a tab switch, but we can't tell. We don't know. So luckily, there's a feature built into our hang detection code that allows us to annotate these hangs whenever we're in a particular state. And I've written a patch in this bug. Gather client-side stacks, this bug 133.077 if you want to follow along. I've written a patch that I just got R- for. I'm going to have to check that out in a second. That basically annotates the any kind of hang that we experience during a tab switch with this annotation that says force paint in progress. So the long and the short of it is, if we're in the midst of a tab switch and we hit a hang on the main thread, or in any thread that we're recording, but in the content process, I think that's just the main thread. If we hit a hang while we're doing a tab switch, the hang will be decorated with this force paint in progress annotation. And then we can use automation to extract those hang reports out, and that will give us good data, or certainly data on where we need to focus our efforts. Where are most people experiencing hangs whenever they're trying to switch tabs? And we can use that data, move forward, and measure our progress. So that's kind of the plan. I just got an R- on this patch. Let's find out what Aaron Klotz had to say about it. R-, he says, this looks mostly good to me, but I don't see a corresponding call to unregister annotator anywhere here. You'll need to call that on the main thread when hang monitor child is destroyed. Failing to do that will cause BHR to crash if a hang occurs after the hang monitor child is gone. R- just because I'd like to take another look at it once that call is in place. Okay, good. So I'm glad I got the right person. Reviewing this code, and so I need to. If we take a look at this patch real quick, I'll show you kind of how it works. So it's taking advantage of the force painting stuff we're already doing. And this is where we where do we do it? Uh, this is in the content process in something called the hang monitor child. We're in a separate thread, not the main thread. We're actually in what's called the monitor thread, the hang monitor thread. And we receive a message that says, I want a force paint. So we say the force paint is requested, and I also made it to say a force paint is in progress. And then when we can enter this interrupt callback, and that usually occurs whenever JS has been interrupted or GC has been interrupted. And if so, then we say, okay, well, if a force paint had been requested before, and we have to do this like locking because we're doing multiple threads and stuff, then we like tell the child, okay, now that I've interrupted you, force paint now. And that's great and all, but we also want to know is when this paint is done. Like we want to understand where we're hanging until this paint is displayed. So it's not enough to just like stop recording here. We have to wait until it's displayed. So we have this method inside tab child called notify painted. This method is called whenever the tab child actually has its contents composited, so presented to the user. And so I call clear force paint on that inside that method, which then makes sure that we can clear the force paint boolean that we had set before, and we say that the force paint is no longer in progress. So then we also have this thing called the annotator that we register. Where do we register it? Register. We register an annotator here ourselves, the child, so that if we see a hang, we'll call annotate hang over here. And so if we see a hang, then we get a lock because we're inside the hang thread or the hang monitor thread, and we check to see if that boolean is true. And if so, well, then we add our annotation. So what A-Klotz is saying is that this register annotator needs to also have the other side of things, the unregister annotator. So we have to find out where would be a good place to put that, and then we'll update the patch. So let's do that. So I believe it's going to be in process hang mod or somewhere. I had registered annotator right here inside something called create hang monitor child. And I don't know if there is a delete. Create hang monitor child. Who calls create hang monitor child? That's called by process. Oh, by here content child. In p process hang monitor child inside something called allocate p process hang monitor child. So there should be a deallocate p process or p hang. What was it? Create hang monitor child. Hang monitor child. P process hang monitor child. So there should be a deallocate p process hang monitor child. There is not. Deallocate p process. There's no such thing. Where is it? Deallocate p process hang monitor child. I guess it's not been implemented. It's just not implemented here. I guess it doesn't need to be implemented. It's a no op. So maybe we need to implement that. Process hang monitor. Is there like a shutdown here? Shutdown, remove process. That's in the parent process. Hang monitor child shutdown. This is probably what we want. Who calls that? Oh, that's just the implementation. in process hang monitor, inside observe XPCOM shutdown. If we see an XPCOM shutdown, then we will shut down ourselves. Okay, and this is where we delete. So this is probably where we want to unregister our annotator. Register annotator. We're gonna unregister. Hang monitor, unregister annotator, and it's probably us. I think it's that because we are an instance of a hang monitor child. Oh, that's on the main thread. Hold on a second. Register annotator. What thread does that happen on? The main thread. Okay. And we also want to do this on the main thread. Okay, good. And then this goes and shuts down the hang monitor thread. Okay, good. So I think that's what we want. That should be simpatico. Let me bump up the font so you can see what's going on here. Just building binaries. Okay, building is done. Let's. Now here's the other problem with it. I can definitely, like, it appears to be working. Here's how I know it's working. If I go to, like, the W3C or the Watt WG standard is actually my test case. I go to YouTube and then I go to the Watt WG and then I like tab switch a bit. And there I get the spinner. And I get the spinner again. I get the spinner again for a long time. That's my, because it's doing layout. I know that one is layout. That's not a new one. That's a long layout. And then I'm going to do a browser content toolbox. And if I get the, I know that if I do like components, utils, import, resource, GRE modules, telemetry session.jsm, and I do telemetry session get child thread hangs, or I think it's just like get thread, get hang, thread, what is it? Thread hang stats? Maybe I want to get telemetry. Maybe that's what I want. I want services.jsm instead. And let me bump up the font here. And then I go services, telemetry, thread, hang, stats. I get these objects, and if I look at these objects, I can see I got these hangs. And do any of them have the annotation? Here's one. Annotation. Object. Force paint in progress is true. So this hang was some timer went off, some content script went off, and we were hanging and we were trying to paint. So that's one. Here's another one. We received some refresh driver. We were doing a notify and we were hanging. Here's another one. Force paint in progress. Stack. We were doing vsync. We're style rules. Yeah, this is the style flush right here. Here's yet another one. So this is working. This is working out. We've got, so here we received some real mouse event and we were dispatching an event when we in the hang. Lots of our hang being here. Let's make sure that we can also find ones where like afterwards we don't have it. So good. Yeah, it's gone now. So the hang's been, the annotation's been cleared. So that's good. And the stack was just that. Here's a newer one. stack is here and some kind of dev tools stuff, probably because I opened up the browser content toolbox. Um, good, so that appears to be working properly. And then I'm going to shut down. Good. That's probably okay. I think that's what all that Aaron wants. So I'm going to amend my commit with that change. Push it up for a review again. How are we doing on time? 1:33. We're 33 minutes in. I've done a lot of explaining. Haven't done too much writing yet of patches. Well, so here's where things break down a little bit. I just kind of showed you the places where, like, I proved to you, I think, that it's working. I can get these annotations in. The annotation system seems to work. But there's a problem, and the problem is that it doesn't look like, well, I'll demonstrate in a second once I'm done publishing this patch. I'm going to respond to Aaron Klotz. Ah, good catch. Thanks. So, publish. So, let's look at the inner diff, make sure nothing sneaky snuck in. Look at the difference between my, yeah, I just added that line. That's fine. And so that's that. So we'll wait for review again and see whether or not A. Klotz wants to look at it. I've updated it. I'm hoping that he's still R question marked on it. Let's take a look. Yes, he has been re-requested on review there. Yeah, okay, good. So what was I talking about? I was saying that it doesn't look like we're actually, like, we're capturing the hangs correctly, but we're not, like, displaying them. And here's what I mean. So I'm going to trigger another couple hangs. Got the spinner. Spinner's happening. Spinner's totally happening. Spinner's happening for a long time. I'm also, like, freaking it out by doing so many hangs here. So many hangs. Big tab spinner. Okay. What was that? Like, that's crazy what that was. And if I go to about telemetry, I would expect that the child payload would have some of that data, but it doesn't. Um, this this payload is like when did this start? This payload is from today, but I don't, like, this is definitely not enough. There's more information to be gathered here. Like, if I go to services.telemetry.thread hang stats, this is in the parent process, and I shouldn't, like, there are a bunch of hangs here. If I try and get the child hang stats, telemetry gather and get child, is there a way I can, like, flush batch child telemetry? I think I can only do that in the content process, actually. If I open up the content process in the with the browser content toolbox, sorry, let me do that here. And then I do, like, components, utils, import resource, GRE modules, telemetry session.jsm. Then, like, telemetry session.get payload has the stuff I need. So, like, Here's our thread hang stacks, gecko child. It's got 14 hangs in here. But if I go to telemetry data in here, I've only got 3. Where are the rest of them? Here's like, yeah, like did they get squashed or something? Like where are they? Um, Here's the 0th one. That's not, is that even in there? Receive async message. This first one's not even in here. Like where are these stacks? This is what I need. Here's so there are a bunch of stacks in here. None of these have annotation. Here's one that has our annotation that we want. We're running a flush loop. Here's another one. Oh, we got a native stack somehow. I don't know how that works, but we did. Oh, no, I have no idea. Maybe it's because it's a nightly local build. But like, oh, it's a native stack because it was a super long hang. That's why. I think it was like histogram, range, value. Yeah, it was like what was it, a 16-second hang. We were there, and yeah, we were inside a style update, a long one. And so like, where are these? Why aren't these listed in here? I'm looking at the child payload. So what's the deal? So here's what I'm gonna do. I need more information on how like how this payload gets gathered. And I think I'm going to ask Chris Hutton because I think he knows about this stuff. So I'm going to have a conversation with that fellow. So let me pull up an RC channel, telemetry, and ping Chutton. See if he is willing to have a conversation with me. And if he doesn't have, oh, and there's Chutton. All right, so Chris Hutton, one of our brilliant, brilliant engineers. I think I'm gonna just call him Chutton. His name's longer than Chris Hutton. There's more to his name, and I don't know. I think I butchered it last time I tried to pronounce it, so I'm just gonna call him by his IRC nick, Chutton. So Chutton knows how our child process telemetry works. How often are the thread hang stats or how often is the payload gathered from the content process from content processes? How often is the payload gathered from content processes and sent to the parent? Just waiting on an answer there. Waiting on an answer there. Because I tried to look it up, like kind of peering through the code, and I think this is the faster. Oh, in which build? Let's say nightly and work our way up. Desktop. So aggregate content process telemetry in the main process. Here's this other bug. Useful. I'm going to drop a link to this into my notes. fixed in 52, so very recently, modified 5 days ago. Oh my. Oh, because some dependencies were added, but it was actually fixed 22 days ago, which is where accumulations, before they got to be 2 seconds old, are sent to the parent process for aggregation. How about thread hang stats? Thread hang stats is not supported. Is that a future goal or just a thing we're unlikely to do? Threading stat still uses the old child payloads mechanism. Okay. Gotcha. Can you briefly, how does that old mechanism work? Like, how often is the child payload sent to the parent? The reason I ask is that I've got a whip in bug. I shouldn't say a whip. I've got a patch in bug such and such that annotates hangs that occurred during a tab switch. I see. So in order to have about telemetry be updated with the data from the child, I need to shut the content process down properly and not crash. Shut the content process down properly. Content child shut down. When's that fired? Notify, notify, notify observers. Side received the request to shut down. Okay, good. Notify child shut down. And then reload about telemetry. So close everything but about telemetry, and that should take care of it if I recall correctly. Okay. So let's see. Close, 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 close. And if I go to about performance, I should probably only have the one content process soon. Right? It's keeping that content process alive. Whoa, what's keeping that content process alive, yo? It's 250, number 250, PID 250. Right there, nightly web content. Not doing a whole lot. Sample, what's it doing? Running a loop. We're inside mock message trap. So we're just like waiting. Oh, in resident unique distinguished amount. What if I close that for a while? Will the content process go away? $250. Hmm. Now what's it doing? Not much. It is just waiting. So if I like go to Reddit, what do I have? Performance. It should be shutting down this content process. How if I shut down this tab? That process is not going away. That's interesting. Why not? Is it because of something I'm running? Maybe one of my add-ons? Disable statuser. Disable that. Bugzilla JS. Disable that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my debugger to my parent process, which I believe is 248. And then inside, like, tab parent, shut down, actor destroy. Deallocate tab ID, content parent. Maybe that's why I need to look inside content parent. Dealloc. Create browser app, and there needs to be like a destroy one. Where is that? Shut down. Shut down process. Content parent actor destroy. Notify tab destroying is what we want. Content parent notify actor destroying. Notify tab destroying. So set a breakpoint in there. Okay, notify tab destroying. We're in here. Get the singleton. Get content process by ID. We increase num destroying tabs. We get number of tab IDs. The number of destroying tabs. So how much is tab IDs.length? Ugh. So we're dying now. Start the force kill timer. Oh, you know what? I think I've got this like old pref. Um, oh, now it's gone. Shoot. Well, that's good. So content process went away as we expected, or as it should have. Where's yeah, 248's gone. So now let's take a look inside about telemetry. Um, child payload. Thread hangs. No, like look, that's not right. Thread hang. Oh, there we go. That's the parent payload again. And the child payload, it's empty. That's no good. Hmm. And then reload. So closing the position. It used to be that you could also call an API called request child payloads, but I had to remove that in order to land. Okay. Okay, thanks. So on shutdown, we should be setting up those hangs. I don't know if that's working properly. Because in the child, if I look at the raw JSON, child payloads, thread hang stacks, we don't have nearly enough in here. Nearly enough. Oh, oh, we had some in here. That's good. And some subsessions. So that works. And some saved sessions, but not in main ping. Parent. Yeah, in main ping? Oh yeah, we got some in main ping. Okay. So maybe I was just looking at the wrong ones. Maybe I was looking at the wrong, like, newer ping. At 1:49, that was only a couple minutes ago. Instead of looking at, all right, current ping data, child payload. Hey, now we've got some. Jeez. All right, so it's working. It's working. This patch appears to work. So now if I look at like structured, hold on. Gecko child. Saw an annotation there. Saw an annotation there. Sensing message. If we go older in the child, yeah, we got all these good old hangs. This is good. Okay. But none of them, like, we don't have visible annotations here, but they are annotated. This is fantastic. This is fantastic. So it appears to be working. Okay, good. There were a couple of mysteries in there. I don't know why the content process wasn't shutting down. I don't have like some kind of preference that. Let me just double check. Shut down. Toolkit async shutdown, crash timeout, shutdown time seconds 5. Yeah, that's all right. So that appears to work. Okay, so let's get that reviewed, and then we can analyze the data. Outstanding. Um, it just got R minus again, I think. Uh, oh no, that's just the old state. Okay, great. Hey, okay, thumbs up. Let's play a sound. Whoops. This is not working. My my old tablet thinks that I just tried to save a screenshot. That's not what I wanted. And now the sound effects are broken. Broken. Reload. That's what I want. Good, good. So this is blocked on review. Now there are a couple of other things that we could do here. Make it easier. We could try and make it easier to pick out the annotations from about telemetry. However, the ones I really care about, like what I care about, is getting it out of our like server from our actual users. That's what I care about. So I care less. Like the important stuff is up there, so I'm actually really happy about that. So thumbs up, good job everybody. I expected that to take the rest of the episode, but the patch that I wrote appears to be doing the job, or at least I think it's doing the job, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what Bill and um, everybody think. I'm just gonna double check a thing. Content process should show up. Content process causes spinner. Content process goes away. Okay. Reload telemetry. Current ping. Child payload 2. Okay. Good. Good, good, good. Alright. Well, that's all good. Urgh. Um, what do we do now? What do we do now? We're gonna move on. So, where are we at here? Patch up for review. Addressed a Klotz's review comments. Got about telemetry to show the data. So I trust that. Whoops, about telemetry. Like when we go here, if we look at a child payload, if we look at the actual raw payload, we get some annotations. Yes, we get our lovely annotations. Force paint in progress. Excellent. Excellent. Very happy about that. Okay, next. What are we doing now? So there's this other bug that I've been looking at. Switching us from a Zool tree to a Zool rich list box for the autocomplete pop-up. And I got some review feedback, and I haven't even read it, so we should read it through now. So, TLDR from Matt Nuremberg. I would prefer we don't refactor these tests in this bug, and ideally not do that before laying the new implementation, as it's too hard to review properly. So my main reason for putting off this bug's reviews are because it seems like you changed the behavior of a test in the middle of a series of commits related to change the behavior of the feature. It makes it hard for me to know if a test change was because something broke versus just updating it to a newer style. I personally don't find these tests very hard to read compared to how they were a few years ago, and reviewing the changes is a pain in the ass because diff tools have a hard time matching the old code up to the new code. Can we just leave these tests in the old style for now, or make a diff that's easier to review? The timing of some autocomplete events is important, and I'm worried that you're making the test no longer test some things it needs to. For example, we need to ensure that if the user hits enter while an autocomplete pop-up is open and an entry is selected, that the value is completed into the input before the form gets submitted if the page is listening for certain key events. I don't think you're necessarily regress that behavior, but I worry that you may no longer catch such a regression. I haven't spent the long time to investigate if you are in fact changing at relevant time because it seems very tedious, which is why I've put off this review. And the benefits of the new style don't outweigh the costs. I also prefer that such major change to the test harness was landed some days separate from a push that rewrites an implementation so intermittent test failures can be more easily be correlated with the test refactoring versus the feature re-implementation. If we want to refactor the tests, I suggest we do that in a new bug after laying the new implementation so as to not block moving forward, and ideally that bug would split the refactoring into many smaller commits with easier to read diffs. Okay. Where is this used? Move this back to avoid change blame unless there's a good reason for this. When I first came this patch weeks ago, I was thrown off by this change because I didn't realize it was a move. The value label comment can differ, so I assume this matches the expectations of existing tests. Provide more context for what this commit is all about, perhaps in the commit message. Apologies for the delay. I really should have mentioned my concerns in comment 31 sooner rather than waiting on more time to distill them clearer. I was trying to be conscious of the time it would have taken you to update those tests and didn't want to just suggest putting that off without further thought. I also felt conflicted because I had said on IRC that I was fine with modernizing the test, but I didn't expect it to be done in the middle of the series of this bug. Nor did I expect diffs that were that hard to follow, as Dolsky and I had recently updated our other autocomplete tests and other bugs this year and split them into much smaller pieces for review. Okay. So the patch that I wrote is a little overwhelming, is the message I'm getting. Like, I change a lot. Like, this is a humongous change in here. I like, yeah, I rewrote all of this test, all these tests, and a little bit easier to reason about in my head, but I think it's just hard to review. And Matt wants to know what this patch is all about. He likes this stuff though. So I guess maybe the question is, can I get the current test to pass using the rich list box and then move this refactor out? Move this refactor out, maybe split it up into a bunch of smaller commits so that it's easier to review. Okay, I think that's reasonable. Okay, well, let me tell him so, because it sounds like he feels bad about it. I understand this is a massive patch. I understand that the test refactor is a massive patch. I can imagine. Sometimes I forget that big efforts like that big changes like this are a pain to review. I agree that splitting the test refactor out into its own bug that is useful not only for sanity but also to but also to help figure out where intermittence might be introduced. Good thinking. I will attempt to make the current tests pass with my changes and then file a new bug for the test refactoring. Smiley face. Okay. So I'm filing a new bug under Toolkit Form Manager. Refactor some autocomplete tests to be more readable and self-contained. Test form autocomplete is an example of a test where test that was written before we had nice async tooling like add task and yield. And what we've got in there is this giant switch statement with a test counter. And at least to my eyes, it's a little hard to reason about, and it's easy for tests to influence one another. I think it'd be better if the tests were refactored such that they are more isolated from one another, so that it's easier to introduce new ones, new tests. I also think that we should use the add task yield promises mechanisms that we've introduced over the years, since I suspect this will greatly improve readability. And it depends on that. This work was originally done bug such and such, but has been split out so that split out for reviewer sanity, and also to make sure that if we introduce any intermittent oranges, we can be sure we can have a greater certainty of where they were introduced, either in bug such and such or in here during the refactor. Okay, submit. Bug filed. Okay, so now let's rebase. We've got where were those patches? We got so many patches. Right here. It's kind of hard to read because like of all the branching and stuff. I got so many crazy branches. I think this is it. 884508. 884508, that's the one. Okay, so HG rebase B for the from the base of that to central. Cause divergences. Oh, there's some stuff based on it. Okay. Rebase R. Okay. You probably can't see what I just typed in because it's too far down on the screen there. I've dragged it up. That's what I typed. That's what's going on. Does any event dispatch from remoteness changes? Yes. The tab remoteness update. Or tab remoteness change. We dispatch a tab remoteness change event on the Zool tab element after the remoteness flip occurs. Okay. And there were some conflicts. When attempting to merge that. So let's, during my big test refactor, a big conflict there. Let's take a look. Hang on, maybe I'll open this in Sublime instead. Here. Looks like some new tests were probably added. I should take a look inside test form autocomplete dot. Here's what I'm gonna do actually. I'm gonna abort the rebase. And then I'm just going to rebase the part that makes us use the Zool tree, or the Zool rich list box. So just this, then this. And then this. Alright, so that's done, I think. Now let's take a look. Okay, let's update to the tip. We'll build it. And then we'll see where we're at. We should have a rich list box for our autocomplete pop-up, but I suspect that some tests will not be passing, and then we have to make those tests pass. And in my experience refactoring the tests, I think I should be okay trying to make them pass. And if I can't, well, maybe what has happened is I've introduced bugs. So we'll find out. Gotcha. Good calls, Matt. Building, building, building.
What happened? I can't do my work.
Just waiting for that to go. Gonna sip some water. All done. Oh, also, I just realized I haven't gotten an email that we have R plus from Aaron Klotz for this stuff. Let's see what he said. Thanks, he says. Oh, thank him. You thanks, Aaron Klotz. Thank you. So now we're just waiting on Bill M to weigh in. So that's good. And then we've got our build here. Let's run this. We should have an autocomplete pop up that, like, if I go to the CBC, I think I've got some search complete history here, or form complete history in the search field, like, yeah, Beatles, yeah, Breaking Bad, yeah, there we go. So like that seems to work. Um, good. So the question is, huh? Is that how it's supposed to work? I like, huh? Slightly different behavior here. Might want to check that out. Rock and roll. All right. So now let's run the tests and see what's broken. Toolkit components. Satchel. Test form autocomplete.html. Okay, we have a failure there. Wonder what the deal is there. Oh, and we had some failures leading up to it. Okay. Okay, so in test 2, we're going to figure out what's going wrong. Let's do that. In test 2, which is in here. Expecting pop-up for test 1. Oh, test fail. Date time shouldn't be implemented. Okay, good. I think. And then test unexpected fail. Okay. Is pop-up shown for test 2, starting test 3. Checking form input got value 1. So what is this? What we're failing somewhere in here. I'm just gonna finish the test, like finish the whole test file whenever that part is done. So we'll just do that. Or yeah, simple test finish after 3. Let's see what happens here. Should fail this test. Yes, we fail one test. Checking form input 1 got value 1, expected value 2. We expect the form to be value 2. So what's going on here? What's selected at this point? So let's not press return. Let's just do that, see what it does. Interesting, only value 1 is selected. So we make sure the initial form is empty. We open the autocomplete pop-up by pressing down. We make sure that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We check the first entry. We go down, we press enter, and it's value 1. Okay, we pass that. And then what do? We restore the form, we set it to empty, and then we hit down again, and then down 2 more times. And that is supposed to do value 2. But we don't. We get value 1 instead. That's interesting. What if we get rid of that first second down? Interesting. Nothing is selected. So there's your bug right there. That first down is being ignored. Do key down opens the form. Dump pressing down to open the pop-up. Done pressing down to open the pop-up. So we're going to do some logging here. Dump pressing down to select the first item. Make sure our logging works, and then we're going to attach to the debugger and see what is going on. Okay. So, well, whenever we, I think how it works is, well, let's see where the problem might be. Let's see if it's at in the messaging. Like, let's see if the parent is being asked to select that first item, but it's not doing it. So let's log every time we are asked, like we say select by. Or how does it work whenever we say select index? Dump. Child is asking to set index to index. All right. And we'll build that. Hopefully you'll see what I'm typing. Let's see if we can solve this in the next 5 minutes, or get a sense of where the problem is at least, and then I'll call the episode done. Child is asked to set index to -1. That's interesting. Pressing down to open the pop-up. Done pressing down to open the pop-up. Child is asked to set index to -1. That doesn't seem right. And yet, dump pressing down to select the first item. Dump. Done pressing down to select the first item. Pressing down to select the first item. Done pressing down to select the first item. And we don't tell them to select an index. That's interesting. Why is that? Well, where does select index come from? I've got too many of these things open. Let me see if I can close some of these down. Reload, get rid of you. Close. Close. Reload. Don't save. Don't need it. Close. Don't need those. Close. Don't need that either. It's a little bit of Rust I was practicing with. Don't need that. Okay. Let's just get rid of everything, actually. Don't need any of these things. Don't save. Don't care. Okay, so test form autocomplete. We were here. And we're also in browser content in autocomplete pop-up. We have implemented NSI autocomplete pop-up, which has this selected index value, which I thought would be set, but it's not being set. There's also select by, but I don't think that's what's being called. I think it's supposed to be selected index. So let's see who calls NSI autocomplete pop-up. That's going to be autocomplete controller, I think, or it might be form fill controller. One of these two things. Form fill controller as autocomplete controller. Attached to browser. That's not what we care about. Get pop-up. I think it's going to be autocomplete controller. Set selected index. Yeah, set selected index to -1. If we handle delete, handle delete here, close pop-up, clear results. When do we set selected index to be something else? Like key down. Key. Handle key navigation. If key down, here we go, we get to see if we're open if we are if so, okay, gotcha. So maybe what we actually should be logging is select by. I was wrong before. Select by. Dump. Child is asking to select by. And then how does it do it? Select by. Reverse will be if it's paid, if will be false, and then page up, page or page down. Select by something. And then form autocomplete select by is what the parent autocomplete pop-up will listen to. And then we will say select by. Autocomplete.xml. And what is this for? Is this for autocomplete result? Not that one. We want autocomplete rich result. So not 834, 1377 rich result. Is that, yeah, rich result pop up. Yeah, 1377. We expect to be in here. Dump. Parent asked to select by reverse, a reverse, and page, a page, new line. Faster. Oh man, I thought I was going to solve this mystery in time, but I don't think it's going to happen. Pressing down to select the first item. Child is asking to select by. Parent asked to select by reverse, false, and page, false. Done pressing down to select the first item. Okay, that worked. And then expecting pop-up for test 2. Pressing down to open the pop-up. Done pressing down. Pressing down to select the first item. Child is asking to set index to -1. That's what we don't expect. That's what we don't expect. So why is the child asking to set index to -1? Well, good question. It looked like there were a couple of places where -1 was used. Unselect the current item is if we're in handling delete. In close pop-up. I think the only way to know for sure is to use my debugger. Okay. So what we'll do is on the second go of here, I need like a debug build, I think. Or I don't need a debug build, really. I call math.sign. No. I call math.sign here. And now I'm going to run the tests. No auto run. Main process PID. Content process is 10758. 10758 is what I'll attach to. And then I'm going to break on JS math underscore sign. Run the tests. And it's on the second one that we care about. Okay. In clear results, we were told to clear the results because we set the input. Because we were told to stop controlling the input because we blurred. We're blurring. This isn't exactly right. I have a feeling I'm going to need to do the trick where I need to SSH from a different machine because I have a feeling, and debug from a different machine because the fact that I'm using Xcode here is changing focus and it's contaminating my test. No good. So I'm going to detach, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop the episode here, folks. You may have wanted to see me do that debugging. It can't happen right now, I'm afraid. I got a meeting coming up, but I'm going to get into it and hopefully have some understanding of what this test is failing for and move on to the next one. So let's go back to OBS, to the agenda. What did we get done? We actually did this, and we got Review Plus from Aaron Klotz, so that's good. I explained how it worked and talked through it a bit, and then we fixed Aaron Klotz's review feedback, and now we're just waiting on Bill M. We got it to work with About Telemetry, which is nice, and now I'm shifting focus to the autocomplete stuff, and I'm trying to make tests pass there. So, thank you so much for watching episode 75 of The Joy of Coding. My name's Mike Conley. If you've enjoyed this episode, let me know. There's a link in the agenda, and it's all over the place. If you check the video description, there should be a link. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Rate the episode. I read every rating that you send in. I want to know what you think. I want to make the series better, so let me know what you want to see more of, and I will do my best. I have been adjusting myself based on the feedback I've received, so keep sending that stuff in. I really appreciate it. And with that, I want to thank you again for watching The Joy of Coding. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye. Take care.
The joy of coding.
See ya.